And away we go. It is the Nightcap brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar right here on BearcatJournal.com. Go see our good friends at Hail Mary's. They're in Cheviot. They're right on Harrison Avenue inside the Dora district, so you can go from bar to bar with your drinks, or you can just hang out at Hail Mary's. They've got everything you need, a 27 TV setup, a 9-screen video wall. They've got the direct TV sports package, so they get all the games, and Cincinnati sports will always be on that 9-screen video wall. They've got brand new walk-in coolers, brand new draft lines, and of course, ice cold Cincy Light on tap in 32.8 degree frosted glasses. All right, Aaron, let's get this show on the road. And the big news of the day, I don't know if it's enough to carry a whole show here, but congratulations to one Ahmad Gardner, now the highest paid cornerback in the history of the NFL, and a guy that has unequivocally, absolutely lived up to the hype of being the number 4 pick in the draft. He is graded out on PFF as the number 1 cornerback in the NFL since arriving on the scene. I know he dealt with a little bit of injury stuff last year and maybe wasn't at his peak, but he's been a 2-time first-team All-Pro, made a couple Pro Bowls, and now he is a very, very wealthy man, and it always brings me back to that picture of him when he was in, like, middle school. And they're like, what do you want to be when I'm going to play cornerback in the NFL? Like, I'm going to be the best. And kudos to him. That man is doing it right.
4 years, $120.4 million, equating to $30.1 million a year. Highest paid corner ever in NFL history. You talk about the PFF grades. He was first in the PFF grade at 90.7. He is tied for first since he came in the league at 43 forced incompletions, and he has 50.9% completion rate allowed, also good for first. So he has done the damn thing.
Here's maybe the best part about it. He's going to be like 29 when this deal ends. So he's in line for one more, potentially. Like, if he can stay healthy and continue playing at a high level, he might end up getting that vaunted second big-time deal in the NFL.
I don't know that the second one will put him as the highest paid. I think it'd be...
No, but I mean, just in terms of, like, getting another big $20 million a year or whatever it is deal, which that doesn't happen. Like, you see that a lot in the NBA. You don't see guys in a position to get that second big time deal, and he's on track for it. So I think he's the best corner in the NFL, and happy for him. He's a good dude, has always been good to us, and good to see him, especially he's handled the stardom of New York really well. Like, that hasn't seemed to phase him. He's dated, he's had famous girlfriends, I guess is a good way to put it. And has streamed and done a lot of different stuff to connect with the community. So happy for Sauce, because he is legit and a great face of the UC brand.
To put it in perspective, Jalen Ramsey was 29 when he signed his last contract extension with the Dolphins in 2024. And when he signed that contract, it was for 72.3 and 3 years, and that gave him, I believe it was 29.2. I think that
something
was
like that. Yeah, but good for Sauce. Happy for him. I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path here, and I haven't run this by Aaron yet because I wanted to get his general reaction, authentic reaction to it. SEC Media Days this week. Brian Kelly was asked about, did you know he has not won a season opener since he's been at LSU?
It's his family.
And they play Clemson this year in their season opener. Clemson's expected to be really, really good. And he talked a lot about...
Who does America hate more, Brian Kelly or Dabo?
Yeah, that might be public enemy number 1 and 2 in the college coaching ranks. But he talked about, having his team, preparing his team differently to be ready for the opening game and not, I guess, using a broad view on the season. This is something that obviously we talk about in this town a ton with Zach Taylor and the Bengals, because they have struggled out of the gate pretty mightily. And it is a big one for Scott Satterfield this year, with Nebraska sitting there in the opening slot. So I'm curious, do you think there's anything to this, preparing your team differently to be ready for week 1, or you prepare your team how you prepare your team and you should just be ready for week 1 as a byproduct of that? Like, what is your take on having a quote unquote different approach when you have a marquee game coming right out of the gate?
Well, when we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, that's completely different, I think, situation than when you're talking about the collegiate ranks. And I say that because
but I'm just saying it's a topic that for every year Zach's been here, talking about slow starts.
Well, you also want to talk about sitting a bunch of your starters through the preseason and not giving them the reps, and then being confused as to why they're rusty. But you wanted to do that to try and keep them healthy by the end of the season, compared to some other teams who play their starters.
To be fair, there is a college equivalent to that, and that is not pushing your main guys, in the beginning of camp, like coming into camp and kind of, letting the tone kind of settle in, with the thought of, we don't want to get guys dinged up going into the start of the season, or, the Steelers are the team that, like, everybody points to as the antitheses of the Bengals, because they hit more than pretty much any team, I guess, in the NFL leading into the season. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting dynamic given Scott Satterfield's situation this year. And look, I don't think the season is doomed if they lose to Nebraska. I think they can still go on to have a successful season. But boy, the season looks a lot different if you're coming home from Arrowhead that Thursday night with a win.
I just don't love going into Arrowhead and having to play Patrick Mahomes' doppelganger. Nothing about that.
He wasn't good. Like, just because he looks like him doesn't mean he plays like him.
Nothing about that feels good to me, though. The kid thinks in his head, I believe he thinks he is Patrick Mahomes. It's weird. It's really weird what he's done with his persona. That all said, I don't know. I mean, say what you want about Scott Satterfield, but to lose the second half of the season the way that Scott Satterfield did, I can't imagine that he's taking any other type of approach to this game other than do whatever it takes to win. And I would be probably shocked if you didn't see a pretty well-tuned team out there. I don't know. I would think, as you're covering camp this August, you're going to see probably guys out there more than you anticipate seeing them out there, because you need to make sure that you are there and ready on that first Thursday in week 0 against Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers. It's a big game that is not to be lost.
Yes,
you're taking home a ton of money, and that's why you moved it from Indy to Kansas City, and you're
from Cincinnati to Indy to Kansas City.
And I saw an article this week where Pat Forty kind of beat up on Cincinnati for doing it to take the paycheck and give Nebraska essentially a second or another home game. But whatever. Go in, do your job, and let the football take care of itself.
Do you think, though, there is different ways to go about it? Like, do you think it matters the way that you approach camp, the way that you approach week 1 of camp, week 2 of camp, when it comes to having a game like that? Like, do you think there is something to going into camp with a mindset of we got to win game one, right? As opposed to having like an FCS school on that first week of the schedule where you got to tune up, and then maybe you got a max school after that, and then you really get it like where you've got to ramp up. That essentially acts as the preseason, quote unquote. Like, here's my thing, Aaron. If I'm not playing that FCS school week one, I'm not playing an FCS school. Like, that's what that game is supposed to be for. And if I've got a different game in week one, I'm doing something else and not playing an FCS school. That's just
if you're gonna take on another Power Four, though, wouldn't you want it to be in your head as a coach? Wouldn't you want it to be week one, like your first game, so that you aren't ramped up, so that you're getting them maybe not at their best,
but maybe they're getting you not at your best.
True, it's a double-edged sword. There is no other way to put it. But again, I don't know. I mean, I think it comes down to talent, and I don't know on paper that Nebraska necessarily has better talent than Cincinnati.
I'd say they're probably a little bit more talented at the top of the roster, but I don't think that the rosters are that far off.
I don't know that it's much more than a coin flip. Now, when you talk, Scott Satterfield versus
the odds makers would disagree. I mean, I've seen Nebraska as much as a 7-point favorite. A touchdown favorite means Vegas thinks there's a significant talent difference.
How many practices has Vegas taken it? We're still.
How often is Vegas wrong?
Far out. Right now, no one's gambling on it right now because there's a lot that can happen between now and kickoff.
Sure.
On week 0, there's plenty of practices. There's plenty of practices between now and then that you can have a major injury to either team to where that number swings heavily. I'm not touching anything July 15th.
But it is an indication of what Vegas thinks of the two rosters. Vegas thinks Nebraska has a better roster.
America thinks that the Big Ten is better than the Big 12, period. End dot.
Yeah. I don't know that that's necessarily outside of Ohio State and Penn State and Oregon. I don't know. I think the middle of the conferences are pretty similar. Middle and bottom are pretty similar.
They're big enough to give them the vested interest in voting on the college football playoff.
They make the most money. Well, that's a money thing. That's power, as opposed to who's got better teams. We're the Big Ten.
I don't know. But in any case, going back to your original question, not getting lost in the weeds here, I think there's we see it in hoops. Wes hasn't gone to a big MTE in the last couple of years, trying to ramp his team up, and it didn't pay off at all last season. So I don't know. Do what you want. You are a head coach of a program, and you have the power to do whatever it is that you feel most comfortable doing, whatever you think sets you up in a way to win. This is what they decided. And come what may, one team's going to have a loss after that first week between Nebraska and Cincinnati. I just hope good guys come out on top.
All righty. I don't think we officially got to a conclusion on the question of, do you think there's different ways to go about? Like, that was the point from Brian Kelly, is like, he's approaching this different than he has the other seasons, which is Brian Kelly speak for, I've lost the first 3 years that I've been the head coach at LSU, the first game of the season, so I better go win this year. Me personally, I don't think there's that much difference. I think you go prepare your team and you have your team ready. There's not this thing where, your team is going to get better throughout the season, but you prepare your team to be the best they can be in week 1 and not like, well, what we're really doing, we went through camp to get us ready for week 4, like to really be hitting our stride in week 4.
If that's your game plan, you should probably be fired.
And he probably will be if he loses to Clemson in week 1. All right, that's the nightcap brought to you by Hail Mary Sports Bar right here on BearcatJournal.com.
Family.